What is going on, everybody? We are back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It's Thursday, August 22nd. We're merely 3 days away. I think that's I was about to do math. I think it's like 72 hours away from All In. Either way, I'm stoked about it. We're fresh off of a Dynamite in Wales where most of our team over in the UK attended. So we're going to talk a ton about that today. I've got two old school WR veterans riding with me, and I'm fired up about it. Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome back to the Thursday show, though. First and foremost, our head of opinions from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. What's good, Anthony Ricciardi?
I'm doing all right. I guess I'm the throwback on this episode.
Shout out.
Yeah. So it's been a while since I've covered Dynamite. A fun one. It's a go home show, so ready to get into it.
Absolutely, me as well. We've got a few comments already out of the gates. The heel Mark, he was here yesterday hanging out, said yo over on Instagram. What's up? WWE Bloodline Era said acknowledge Roman Reigns. That'll be on a different show. Tune in for the SmackDown review on Saturday, and you'll love it. But also, we've got a comment here on the YouTube side from friend of the show, Numero One Superfly. Hello, what's going on, Numero One Superfly? But let's talk about a guy across the pond that attended last night's Dynamite. The Scottish special himself, Soul. What is good?
The Judgment Day cave here, apparently, but nonetheless,
Yes.
I'm very well. Attended Dynamite last night, first ever Dynamite, for a show that I watched in 2020 that made me a fan. Getting to attend one in person, quite honoured and happy to have attended one, and also first in the UK, special as well. But yeah, the road to All In really is here, and the end destination's right in sight, boys.
Absolutely stoked to have you. Love the Judgment Day joining. I mean, you got to love it seems like a fun hotel, and we know you're having fun. Where are you geographically right now? Are you in London yet? Did you leave Cardiff last night?
I'm still in Cardiff. I'm heading to London tomorrow.
How about Cardiff with the neon lighting? It just comes stock in the hotel?
I guess it's just a part of the budget requirements, just to set the mood for the terrible weather that's outside. So, it kind of complements that.
I'm not even mad, man. I'm impressed. I respect it. Who saw that coming as an option?
Who knows? All I know is it's going to be a busy day tomorrow, heading over to London. Going to get, parked up in hotels actually at Wembley as well. So that is going to be really great for me. So I'll literally be able to see Wembley Stadium from my window. And then I obviously got a few independent shows, Right Cabaret, Rev Pro, and then All In. And after that, Progress on the Monday. So it's going to be a very busy weekend for me.
Absolutely. All right. Let's get into this show, though. Wait, actually, really quickly, before we do, we've got Lord Virus of Nurgle. What's up, guys? What's going on, my friend? Thank you for tuning in, as always. But let's get into our first segment. Let's talk. You can see it on the screen. I'm sure everyone's been waiting. You guys can chum it up all day. But we've got Mercedes Moné and Dr. Britt Baker, the battle of the pseudonyms, CEO versus DMD. Dentist versus company president. We just lost Soul, so I'm obviously going to have to toss this one to you first, Anthony.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this contract signing. I didn't think it was the most electric contract signing, but I am excited about this match. I think it is still a very huge and important match for the AEW women's division, and I wanted to get your thoughts on not just the contract signing, but when it comes to this match at All In this weekend. I think it's a high-pressure spot for both. And they both have something to prove. And this is that opportunity, is to put on a heck of a match. It can silence a lot of doubters, I would say, on some of the things we've seen over the last few years from two outstanding performers. What are your thoughts?
I mean, you're talking about the initials. One of them's legitimate. Britt actually is a dentist. And Mercedes just claims to be a CEO. But, when you look at it, it's two people that I personally think their best is as heels, personally. I've said that about Mercedes from day one. I think she has this aura about her. You don't want to like her, especially the stories that come out over the years with fans' interactions and have not exactly been positive. And recently, there's been rumor and innuendo about Britt as well. So, but in ring wise, I think they're going to deliver. The contract signing is what you typically see in wrestling. It was nothing too over the top. It was the shots back and forth. I did think Britt's line. I am, as you were, one of four of the four horsewomen back in the day. I was one of one. I was an original. That I thought was a good line. As a whole, this feud, I've been lukewarm on it. Like part of it is, and I have said this before, not a huge fan of either one of them personally. I just don't. I just don't. But I thought they built it up pretty well. It was a little weird seeing. I know Camille. They brought her in as Mercedes heavy, her China to Triple H, if you will. She's done that role before. She did it with Nick Aldis in NWA, but I kind of was hoping they would have brought her in more of a competitor like she was in NWA's women's champ and stuff like that.
Higher on the card. I think that makes
I mean, bringing her in as a lackey, I thought was a little almost a downgrade because
that's so far though. I think that's so far. Not to interrupt you on that, but I will say they have actually had some success. You look at like Jamie Hayter and even what they're doing with Mariah May right now with that type of a story. The irony to me is over on the men's side, Wardlow ended up kind of being a flop as great as it looked for a minute. So, it's waters are muddy there.
I think the difference with that is in Camille's case, now granted it's the NWA, that doesn't have the prestige, but she had a lengthy reign as a women's champion. The others really didn't. Like Jamie Hayter, I don't think she did anything prior to the Indies probably, but
she did really well, especially on the UK scene. She was
but I'm saying as far as more of a, I thought Camille had a higher pedigree, but as a whole with this whole story, I think you can have fun with it. I think it's a match that'll deliver. Like I said, the contract signing was what it was, but it built anticipation to one of the more premier matches that's going to be on the All-In card.
I'm with you. And I am very excited about this one. We've got a bunch of comments here that I'm going to run through really quickly before I toss it over to you, Soul, for sure. But we've got Lord Virus of Nurgle said he needs Britt to win the TBS title. And it's funny because we've got a lot of DMD support here. Even the heel Mark added over here on YouTube too. DMD is the ace, as she said. She is one of one. I'm as big of a Britt Baker fan as anybody. I think she's outstanding, but I also think Mercedes Moné needs to be appreciated. I understand there's some bitterness about the exit at WWE, and I think that's where a lot of this comes from. Not in regards to what you were saying, Anthony, but I would just say generally what I see when I see negative opinions of Mercedes. I think a lot of it comes from that space personally, because I do think she's just an absolutely sublime talent person. Like, that's my opinion. Soul. Okay, wait. One more comment actually before I finally ask you my question. WWE Bloodline Era continues to ask, is Daniel Bryan going to win the AEW Championship? So you see the topics on the right, the final showdown. We're covering that in the final segment. So hang in there, man. A little bit of patience and we'll get there, I promise. But Soul, I got to ask you, when it comes to this match, do you see it the other way, or are you under the same opinion as, sort of what we've seen in the comments, as well as what we just heard from Anthony, that it's Dr. Britt's time to win that belt?
So it's an interesting one, to say the least. I think with the TBS Championship, it's like the TNT. It should be a stepping stone up to the World Championship, or you could at least make it something your own. I do agree with your points a bit, Clark. How you said about Mercedes leaving and being a bit like some fans are a bit bitter about her exit and not being entirely with, obviously the previous company, but she's been doing some fun stuff in AEW, especially with Camille. I think Camille's in a good role. I think like a heater role for her is a very good one to have. But for Wembley Stadium, I think Moné should win it because Britt has achieved quite a lot in AEW. Owen Hart, tournament winner in the inaugural one with Adam Cole, had a long reign as well with the Women's Championship. Moné has obviously got the New Japan Strong and the TBS. And now think of this as well. If we have a renewed TV deal, you then have a championship that represents our TV network.
And if Mercedes Moné is going to be defending the belt in New Japan Strong, that means other US shows, or maybe even going to Japan. That's basically like a free advertisement for TBS and Warner. And with the social media following she has as well, I think that's a good one to keep the belt on her for that reason. I mean, I personally think that Moné's going to win. Camille's going to beat down on her with Moné, and they're going to attack Britt Baker. Jamie Hayter's going to return and set up a tag team match at All Out. That's what I think could happen. I think it's a good way to also continue into All Out and build the entice for people to wanting to see that show. But yeah, I thought both women really brought it and had a really fun segment to kick off Dynamite.
Absolutely. And I'm with you, and especially your perspective being in the building, you know, I'm completely with you. Like it's a more exciting segment, I think, contract signing wise, if you're in the crowd. Wouldn't you agree with that? So then probably watched on TV, but it doesn't take away from how good the build's been to the match.
Here's the thing as well. Obviously, me being in there, I will have a natural bias to liking the whole show, and I truly do. I just hope as well that for what me being in the building and saw makes me more anticipated for their matchup transfers over to this TV for the viewers at home, and they feel that enticement as well. And I think that's a very interesting thing that maybe we could always look into in the future as being physically in there, translate to television stuff as well. Because I actually want to ask you guys, you know, this crowd as well was quite something. I want to know for you two, obviously my favorite two Americans, how did the UK crowd really translate across television for you guys?
Oh, it came off great. I mean, that's the thing. The international crowds, whether it's WWE or AEW, because I think you guys get the stuff less than the American audience. Obviously, they only come around like once a year, something like that. It's extra special, and you could feel that through the crowd. Like, you know what I mean? That I felt that. I thought so.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement. And I said this kind of pre-show. It felt like a AEW show from 2 years ago. It felt like that AEW magic, that feel of like even if it wasn't necessarily the most important match on the card or the most important segment on the card, the crowd was electric enough that you couldn't take your eyes off the screen. And I haven't had that feeling for a while when it comes to AEW, but I did last night watching it for sure. I truly enjoyed the show and was absolutely jealous. I was like, man, I wish I was there with them. Like, man, I wish I was there with them. I kept saying it out loud. I'm like, dang it. Let me run through a couple more comments here before we do move on to our next segment, though. Lord Visor of Nurgle, like, no spoilers over here on WR, so I can't read that first one. But the second one, he said, you know, that's not my view, Clark. And I think he's referring to the Mercedes Moné thing. No, I was not calling you out in any way. No, trust me on that. WWE Bloodline Era is trying to book his own show here, and we're not going to do that. And then we've got Kef Casque up here with Monet for the win. And then the heel mark, no need to apologize. Sorry I comment so much. I love wrestling, LOL. No, we love it. Thank you for commenting, and we appreciate it. Shad added, Mercedes is why Britt can do what she does. 4 horsewomen revolutionized pro wrestling. Good call.
Clark, I had it. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Heel Mark said, out of curiosity, did you get my email? If you sent it to the Wrestling Republic main email, I do not check that one. If you sent it to my email, then maybe I did, and I haven't read it yet. I apologize, and we'll check that later. But then,
actually, I want to hear Anthony's point there. What was the point?
Yeah,
there,
go ahead. I wanted to ask you, because this came up on one of the other shows that we did, with Kevin Owens holding the WWE title before he challenged. Britt held up the TBS championship. Were your thoughts the same on that?
It's bad luck, man. It's bad luck. I was less impressed by Kevin Owens doing it, especially because he's Canadian and it's such a hockey tradition. You don't touch the cup. It's cursed. So, and DMD, though, being from Pittsburgh, that's a heck of a hockey town too. Ask the Penguins, ask Sidney Crosby about that one. And yeah, no, I didn't think it was the right move. I'm not superstitious, but I'm stitious enough to believe that that's a bad omen. And definitely when it comes to that, a little bit sketched out. But let's actually move on to our next one. We've got not an old Western showdown, but we do have a draw. Okada and Claudio.
Mm-hmm.
Wild. Who had
Mhm.
this on their bingo card
Mhm.
ever in the near future, especially taking place in Wales? If you're like, look, August 2020, if you told me this 2 years ago, August 2024, we're going to have a 20-minute draw between
Mhm.
Okada and Claudio Castagnoli, I'd be like, oh, cool, at the Tokyo Dome. And they're like, no, Wales on a Wednesday night Dynamite, and it's going to be on cable. I would be like, you are a nutcase. But it is exactly what we got last night, and so cool. I know I'm going to you here first, Anthony, on this one, but I do also want to get Soul's opinion on this, because I know that it was just a sight to behold being in the arena. But your thoughts on that match? When did you see this coming?
It's such a weird booking decision to book this essential dream match on a go home show. And, for the most part, Claudio doesn't have a match, or unless he's in the casino thing. And Okada probably the same, unless I'm mistaken. Are they both in? I don't even know if Okada's on the card. Is he in the casino?
Okada's not on the card, but possibly casino, but it's obviously not been announced. The only one
And same
announced
thing
in
with
casino
Claudio.
I can't say because it's Collision.
Okay, gotcha. All right, yeah, all right. But yeah, okay. But just as a whole, I thought it was kind of an odd booking decision for it. But it was old school. It was fun. It is kind of interesting that they went the time limit draw route. Because they got very close to doing it with Osprey and MJF previously. So I did think that was a little. I don't know. I mean, I was okay with it if they're going to continue the feud. If it was just to do it, just to do something like that because it was unexpected, I would like to see Claudio get used better. It's a shame because he's been in two companies, and the sad part is I think he kind of gets viewed as he's a good hand, and nothing more than that. So it was just kind of, even after the match, it was just kind of like, all right, leave the ring. Like the Bucks, like, just leave the ring, and it just, I don't know. Visually, it didn't. I wasn't satisfied with that because it's kind of like Claudio's been around a while. Like, it's really, that's how you're going to treat him. Just get out of the ring. I wasn't crazy about that, but the match itself I thought was solid.
Yeah, that would be my one complaint too. I see where you're coming from there. It was a little like, after that effort, just a little bit of like a, hey, that was a big deal. You know what I mean? It would have been cool. Soul, though, in the arena, this is where I felt like the crowd may have came through, not quite the most, but where I noticed it the most, is for lack of a better way to put it, right? I noticed, like, man, they're locked in that building right now. Like, the whole building, all the eyes are on this ring, every move back and forth. What were your thoughts sitting there in that building, seeing Okada in Cardiff? Pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, I got to see an Okada singles match. That's something I could scratch off the bucket list. I thought they put on a very stellar match, and yes, of course, a lot of people are saying, why is this not on All In? I honestly think the original plan was to have Okada versus Kenny on All In, and because of obviously plans changing, and they might not want to fill up the card to the brim, because I think it's less matches than last year. Don't quote me on that, but obviously Casino Battle Royale chew up a lot of time there. So why not put it on the go home, and actually entices people to go out and watch Dynamite? So I think it's a fair point. For this draw, usually there's more to come. And I think one way they can maybe go back to this is, obviously we've got Wrestle Dynasty in Japan next year, and Okada will be very big for that. You could absolutely have them go to a Iron Man match maybe next year and the Tokyo Dome. I think we have a fun way to have Okada come back to Japan after signing with AEW and allow Claudio that moment in Japan. To put the belt on him in Japan for Claudio could be interesting. I think it'll be very interesting to see where the Elite especially is by next year. Because yes, I know some people really hated this jokey Okada character, but I absolutely love it. I mean, the crowd were loving it. We were chanting a certain word to him, and he just played off it very well. But like that moment where Okada really just become back to the true Rainmaker and hits the stunning pose will make everyone lose their collective minds. But again, to the Elite, I will happily say I don't think the Elite storyline has hit the same way they want it to. It's a bit of a downplay like the Undisputed Kingdom storyline as well, which is a shame. But I'd be very interested to see how each member of the Elite's status on the card is by next year, because I think there could be a very big shift for the whole Elite group depending on where people are.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I think we're due for a shift, maybe even as soon as almost like at All Out. Maybe even that soon. Like a minor shift. I'm not saying the full shift, but the start, plant the seeds. I think the seeds will be planted at whatever happens at All Out, especially with the 2-week gap this year. So that's just my thoughts. There's a ton of comments here. I mean, a ton. Lord Virus of Nurgle with a very interesting one said, what worries me with the Continental title is how do they sort the issue with the title match ending in a draw? See, I actually love that it ends in a draw here, because it's a third result that we just haven't seen. It's an unused narrative driver that's always still in the back of our mind. There's not a definitive end, right? It's not over till it's over, the classic.
And a quick thing to that is there's the classic coming up. Imagine if Okada and Claudio meet again, then there's the story of the draw.
Yes. I will say also, Lord Virus of Nurgle, again on Instagram, has a comment here that's great. And WWE _bloodline_era has pretty much just been repeating comments and doing his thing. But I did want to thank him for all of the engagement as well as the viewership retention, for staying on and hanging in there. Do your thing, man. Keep commenting. We're still not going to talk about the WWE today. The topics are on the side of the screen. But before we get into our next segment, I've got an ad to read. And it's a good one. We've got friends over here at Next Level. Absolutely awesome. No gimmicks. Totally free. Thriving wrestling community. So if you're looking for more wrestling content like WWE Bloodline is, and you don't want to hear about AEW today, maybe you can go find someone else on there. It's absolutely free to download, but just mostly watch our stuff first. Go to nxconnect.me/Wrestling Republic to see all our content across all platforms, linked all in one place. It's absolutely free. You'll enjoy it if you like wrestling. But speaking of liking professional wrestling, let's get into our third segment and one of my favorites. I can't imagine what it was like being in that building for this puppy. I loved it. Left him bloody. The old US of A. Basically repping 1776 across his chest without actually writing it. Maxwell Jacob Friedman, the American hero. Bloodies the British star. Bloodies him. But I thought Ospreay was getting the best of him on the mic, maybe for the first time in their feud for a second there, till it went down for a second there, for a split second. So what was it like in that building? Because it had to be ugly.
I think it really shows, for people that said on the internet about Ospreay, that this man is truly, I've said it multiple times, he is truly, truly loved here in the UK. The reaction you had from, I mean, God's sake, man, he pulled out a Still It Bang reference. That's something the Americans aren't probably going to get. But for us, that's just the creme de la creme. That's just funny to us, seriously. The bang, the dirt is gone. Nah, that's funny as anything, man. It is very interesting with this match, obviously going to All In. I'm very excited to see where it goes, but it's like a few matches on this card where it's very either way. I liked how MJF was very vulnerable in this. Like, a lot of people were wondering, well, why did he become a good guy and then turn on Garcia? And I think it plays into what he said in this. You know, he hates Will Ospreay because the fans loved him and now they love Ospreay now. It's jealousy. It's just a simple jealousy storyline. And I think it works really well with MJF, and what we know of him in his past character and his past actions is that he's somebody who feeds off attention. He loved the attention that he got from Adam Cole. He liked the attention he got from the fans. He liked the attention he got off Chris Jericho when they did the whole singing duet thing in the pandemic days. MJF is very much a person that feeds off attention and appraisal coming in as well. So yeah, I can understand why he'd be absolutely raging and wanting his moment and his acknowledgement back from the AEW fans. But two things are very interesting for me from this, actually. Three very interesting points from this. One, the Will Ospreay joke about he's got 3,000 people back there and they're nan. That was pretty good. Two, MJF going after Will Ospreay's, real heart, obviously with his missus and his stepson as well. Like, I didn't expect them. Like, I felt like that was going to be like a CM Punk AJ Lee that you can't really mention. Like, AJ Lee is like, some things are off the line, but like the fact that they mentioned it and really brought out the blood feud of it, I really like that as well. But three as well, a person's name was mentioned I didn't expect from commentary, I believe, was Daniel Garcia's name being mentioned. And it makes me think, Garcia could maybe pop back up in some way, because I think MJF should win at Wembley, because I feel like there's a lot more to tell with the American Championship. It'd be a bit annoying for them just to introduce a whole new belt design and everything and then just change it for one feud. I think, why not let MJF keep it at Wembley? Because we've had Will Ospreay as international champion. Why not have somebody new come and take that title and give it its own life again, a new representation for the title? And I think that could be Daniel Garcia, because there's also a past there. And it would also show, because Garcia couldn't beat Ospreay. And now if Ospreay can't beat MJF, Will can give that motivation to Garcia to take the title of MJF. But of course, there is always the story of the Tiger Driver in '97, which Brian has also told Ospreay just to do it. So there's a lot of cards in play at this match, and when he does hit that Tiger Driver, I think Wembley's going to blow. I was going to say blow the roof off, but there's even no roof. So I mean, I guess just blow the windows out.
Build a roof on it, maybe.
Well, probably not.
They might build. They might build a roof of sound over the top of the stadium. Sound waves, at least. That's my thoughts on it. I mean, honestly, I love your call. I can't lie. I am a Maxwell Jacob Friedman mark. My name's Clark, but man, I think he's good. And I think Will Ospreay's great. But how funny is it if this guy walks in dressed like Apollo Creed in Rocky 2, whips out a diamond ring and cheats to beat him, and just, it's like the slimiest, most perfect heel stuff too, because he's so annoying. It's just good work. Ospreay is so logically the overface right now, but like you said, there's so much left to tell with the American title, because I think he's one of the few people that can take that gimmick back to America and make Americans mad during election season over the next 2 months. You know what I mean? Like, this doesn't, I at first thought this is only something you can really do through All In, right? I was like, this is for the UK fan base. This is for the build with Ospreay. No. With this election coming up and the political climate in the States, you can make people really mad knowing Max for the next 4 months. Through the start of the year, I would say there's a lot of story left to be told there. And that's at least what I'm rooting for. I think it'd be hilarious. But with that, let's get in to the final showdown. Hopefully not, but the final countdown. Ospreay not involved in this match. Sorry, I read the teleprompter incorrect there. We have Bryan Danielson might retire, and he's challenging for the AEW World Title, and it's ridiculous. I don't know what to feel about it. I don't know how I'm going to feel if he potentially loses this match. I am not ready for Bryan Danielson to not exist anymore. I don't want Bryan Danielson to never win the AEW World Title, even though that's the most Bryan Danielson thing ever. And I don't want to have to see the press conference after where everyone's just sad because Danielson's career is over. So for me, I just absolutely believe this has to be Danielson's night. And it has to be the end of the show with him standing tall. Honestly, almost WrestleMania 30-esque. Wembley Intercontinental title-esque at SummerSlam. Standing tall, holding that title, accomplishing his mission, which was he went to AEW to benefit pro wrestling. He's said that numerous times. And I don't think there's anything better than arguably the best in-ring wrestler we've ever seen. After all that he's been through over the last decade, having that moment inside of Wembley. So I'm going to go to you first on this, though. You were in the building last night. That showdown between Danielson and Swerve, pretty serious. Do you think this is it?
So here's a little fun fact for you guys. Revolution 2022 was my first ever AEW pay-per-view, and I saw Sting and Bryan on that card for the first time. I was All In last year. I saw Sting again. And then I was at Revolution this year, where I saw Bryan for the second time, but I saw Sting for the final time, 3 out of 3. I will see Bryan again in a couple of days, wrestling at Wembley, which will also be free. But I don't want it to be a preferred retire. I don't want it to be another 3 out of 3, and then he retires, and it's like, oh, I'm just jinxed now because I've seen Sting and Bryan retire this year. Like, that's going to be a real bullet to bite. I mean, come on. Do I really want my year of wrestling in 2024 to be, I went to Greensboro, saw Sting retire. I saw Drew lose to Punk at Clash of Castle Scotland. And then I saw Bryan retire in Wembley Stadium. That's going to be like the terriblest luck of a wrestling fan attending
It's
shows.
like the triple whammy.
I don't even want that. I mean, I don't want to have to get a I was there for Bryan's last match shirt with my Sting shirt just to really cement the collection now. So let's talk about the match. I do think Bryan's going to win, but I think it's not going to because he beat Swerve clean. I think somebody else on that card is going to get involved because they hate this man so much that they won't even dare say his name. I think Hangman Adam Page is going to win the Casino Battle Royale, cost Swerve the match by cashing in his opportunity for a title match, making it a freeway. We've seen what Hangman does. The Blood and Guts match. He didn't care about the stipulation or winning. He just wanted to hurt Swerve. I genuinely think Hangman will get in there, beat Swerve as much as he can. Bryan's going to put the yes lock on him. And as Hangman looks at Swerve and he tries to crawls, he's going to stick his middle finger up and he's just going to slow tap. He's going to purposely tap out just to annoy Swerve. Like, imagine that image. Bryan doing everything he can to make Hangman tap. And you just see Hangman give Swerve the dead eyes. And he just slowly taps, smiling. Because he doesn't care that he's lost. He just cares that Swerve is lost.
Oh, that is wild. I like it. But I still think, I hate to say it, Soul, if it's me, I want Danielson to have that giant AEW win moment against Swerve this time, where maybe Hangman does get involved and there's some shenanigans, but at the end of the day, it's that Busaiku knee or it's that good old label lock and it's over. That's just the way I want to see it. Like, especially for this match, to me, All In has become like the Mania for AEW.
Don't get me wrong. I would be absolutely happy if Bryan just beats him completely clean and Busaiku knees him 3 times and then just wins. I just think with Hangman's character, him being in that stadium and no Swerves in such an important match for him, I genuinely think Hangman will not miss that opportunity and he will take it.
I definitely don't necessarily mind, though, if Hangman gets involved a little bit, but I don't want him to be involved in the finish. That's my own, right? Like, directly.
Yeah, maybe he'd even just buckshot Larry at Swerve, walk away, and then Swerve loses.
I think it'd be actually interesting if he missed a buckshot on Swerve, hit Danielson overcomes that and wins.
Maybe,
really climbs that. I had a lot of thought about this. I've kind of been going back and forth, but I'm like, so he lines up the buckshot. He's gonna hit Swerve. Swerve ducks it, hits Danielson. Hangman hits it on Danielson. Swerve then hits that big, the kill shot, basically, right? Like on Hangman that knocks him out of the interference. Danielson somehow kicks out of the buckshot, right? And survives and then comes back to win. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Could do. Let's chuck it to Mr. Philadelphia. Do you think we're overbooking it too bit?
That's exactly where I was going next. Is what do you think? Overbooked between the two of us? Pseudo booked.
You're both overbooked.
Decently booked.
I gotta be honest. You did.
What do you see?
So by the way, you forgot you saw Punk's last AEW match too last year. But I don't think you have a shirt for that one.
I can't swear in this.
I mean, it happened. But yeah, when I'm looking at this, if they didn't add the stipulation that, oh, this is Brian's last match, my thought would be, okay, they're going to drag this out. He's going to finish up in his hometown in October, whenever they do that the next show. But honestly, I think Brian's done this year. Knowing him, his personality, based on everything I've heard over the years, reading his biography, everything else, my indication is that he doesn't want the title. Now, granted, the rumor was Sting didn't want to retain his last match either, so they could push it. But at the same point, he went to AEW to check off boxes before he called it a career, and also to get people over, because he is, whether he wants to admit it or not, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. In any promotion would declare him as a Hall of Famer. He's had his WrestleMania moment, like you said, WrestleMania 30, 10 years ago. I could totally see him wanting to put Swerve over, because one of the complaints, Clark, you and I had when we used to do Thursdays on a regular basis was that Swerve's title reign didn't feel important enough. Now, if you look at the track record, Swerve's now piled up a number of people that he has now beaten while being champion. He's beaten Samoa Joe. He's beaten Christian. He's beaten Ospreay. He's beaten people that have held world titles. To end the career of Bryan Danielson and also successfully defend the title on AEW's grandest stage this year, I don't think that's a bad move. And if you muddy it and have Hangman get involved, to me, it cheapens what that accomplishment would mean for Swerve. Because this isn't a no DQ match. This isn't a Bloodline Rules with like Mania thing. This is not that.
No,
this is a one-on-one. To me, I think that's the logical move.
No,
I would give it to him.
For Hangman to interfere, to your point, it has to be a ref bump, right?
But I don't think it's needed in this. I think those two guys can put together an absolute masterclass in that ring and get Swerve to another plateau. And Brian is the type that will absolutely fall on a sword to get somebody over. And, think about it. Also, one of his last matches in WWE was a part of getting the Roman reign over.
No, 100%.
So, you know what I mean? So I think
you've got a lot
Swerve
of
should go
support
over
here between both Instagram and YouTube. Like Lord Virus of Nurgle said, Anthony makes a great point. He asked earlier, really quickly before I go over to the YouTube comments, he said, do you not think the idea of Swerve Hangman 3 is where this is headed? No, I still think that is where it's headed.
I think you could easily do that for All Out. And the great part is the story's built in. So the problem that AEW typically has is, the storytelling, but there's already a story there. So with 2 weeks, you could just pick back up. Yeah. The same with Cody and Rock down the road. The story's already built. So you don't need a lot of runway.
It's a lot like having a really good book with a bookmark in it.
Yes.
Right. Like, it's not that hard to get back into it.
Yep.
That I agree with 100%. Shad added, if Swerve retires Danielson, hand him Wrestler of the Year and mark him a top tier wrestler in pro wrestling history. Okay.
I think that's a bit much.
I'll say this. Probably on the Wrestler of the Year thing, I don't necessarily think that he even needs to beat Danielson in this match to win Wrestler of the Year. I think if he puts on an all-time classic in a loss to Danielson and then another all-time classic against Hangman and stays in the title picture, I think eventually we can see a triple threat match between Hangman, Swerve, and Danielson, which is, who would that hurt? Nobody. Like, those are three unbelievable talents, top of the card talents. Now, all-time pro wrestling history, I think it's too early to tell. Swerve is just now hitting his prime. Do I think in a few years? No doubt he can be an all-timer. Yes. I think Swerve's that dang talented. He's that good. He's that violent. MJF was on Busted Open Radio this morning, not to talk about a different show than ours, but he mentioned in his interview with Dave LaGreca only one positive thing about another person on the roster. And that was, he said that Swerve is underrated and as good as anybody. And he went out of his way to say it. And I was blown away by that. I do believe for sure Swerve can absolutely be a Hall of Famer. But I do think right this second, I'm not quite ready to retire Danielson. So it's got to be Brian for me. But that does bring us to the end of today's show. We've got 1,000 more things to say about All In. We're going to be talking SmackDown this weekend. We're going to be talking Collision. All of it. All kinds of good shows on tap every single day. Check us out tomorrow. Same time, same place. That's noon Pacific. 8 o'clock if you're over in the UK. That's 3 on the East Coast, 2 Central, 9 a.m. in Hawaii for the daily broadcast. Check out the Soul Sessions. Stay tuned. If you like collectibles and action figures, we got some sold separately stuff coming up with me and Anthony. I hope everyone has an excellent Thursday night. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy all the good wrestling. Have a good one. Talk to y'all soon.